Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday night. It is Monday night live DJ chat night. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking. Well, I've got video coming back on. There. Sorry about that. We've got DJ Kilma with us. Kilma, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for coming in. We're going to be talking tonight, gang, about getting into the club world. We started, and we our very first video, we talked a little bit about kind of finding and such, and trying to get your foot in the door. Now we're going to talk about what it takes to be successful once you get your foot in the door. Yeah.
Right on.
I think that's
stoked.
Yeah, this will be a great night. For those of you who are out there watching it on Facebook, I'm just going to, you got to bear with us if you've been watching our shows. You know how this goes, is it takes a little bit of time to make sure that everything is going. There we go. We've got it on Facebook and we have it on YouTube. If you are watching it on Facebook it's a better video and better audio over on YouTube. So I will put the link in that in just a second. Kilma, this is all the fun of live shows.
I know. I do that. I do that all the time with the radio shows. You go live, and then you do your first mix, and then you tweet everybody, and then you let them know, and you reply to people in the chat, and they're like, "How are you doing this all at once?"
Exactly. I'm not. It's smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors, I tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you watching on Facebook, it's the link for the YouTube is up in the description and in the comments area, so you guys can check that out. Otherwise, if you are on YouTube, welcome. We are going to be jumping into our club chat tonight. I got to refresh my YouTube because it's not showing me. There we go. It's not showing me the chat room at all. So Kilma, we talked about basically ways to find club work and get our foot in the door, the best way to describe it. So let's kind of dig into what it takes to be successful, because there's a lot of DJs that in my circle that have dabbled a little bit and have the desire to, because they're starting to create their own music and mixes and different things and like to do more of that. But there's that whole, I don't want to know if I want to jump into it until I know I can be successful at it. So I think that's where we're at tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Because whether you're a top 40 DJ or, you're playing some of these more tailored demographics in electronica, there's a lot of the same things that you can do to be successful at both of them. So I guess I'll just dive right in and say the number one thing I would say to do is get involved. So whether you are being booked or you are booking and running the night, it's important to have input. So from planning the setup to having a say on the layout and the music, maybe have some ideas about theme or flow to the evening. So if you are being booked, it's important to have that input because you might have a specific brand image for yourself that you want to stay true to while benefiting the night. You should also make sure whatever it is that you're involved in, that you really believe in, because it makes it a lot easier to promote a night that you're a part of when you're like, yeah, this is totally me and what I'm all about.
Give me an example of that. That would be something that you would be into, as opposed to something that you would, even in a personal situation. Give us something that you wouldn't be into that would fit that category. As I'm trying to envision what that would be.
Yeah. Okay. So for me personally, sometimes I am asked to play all-female DJ parties, and I love supporting female artists, and that's always super fantastic. But sometimes people brand the night in a way that doesn't really reflect my brand. So, if they were having a sexy lingerie party and they wanted all the girls to wear underwear and play top 40 music, I'd be like, oh, thanks, not really for me, but I wish you guys the best of luck. Whereas when it's supporting female talent and what they have to offer the industry in a more around the music and what they have to offer as an artist, then I can really get behind that and I'm excited about it. So that would be a personal experience that, I've dealt with. And I'm actually doing a party this Friday with a bunch of super talented, wicked female artists. So I'm stoked.
And that's an interesting example that you used. And we're going to take a detour right here a little bit, gang.
Yeah.
Because that's something they never ask us as guys to do. I mean, I don't think, and not that I'm the best looking guy, but I mean, even my good looking DJ friends, they might want us to dress up in a a shirt tie kind of a thing. And I did have one where they wanted tuxedos so it could look formal. But is that something common that you've heard that out there in the field, or that they're
Oh,
asking for that?
so when I first got into the field, absolutely. But as I established my brand more, people that took a look at the brand before they tried to book me knew that's not going to happen. And people that didn't, as soon as they took a look at my press kit, they were like, okay, this might not work. But that's okay because sometimes within those relationships, it's a learning experience for the promoter and the artist. So it opens up a conversation to talk about that. But there are brands that promote themselves that way, and that is totally fine, and that is up to them. So I support that as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not for me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why there's so many in the variety and such, because as you say, some people would be more than comfortable, and that's part of their show. Does something like that now, and not specifically the dress thing. So let's say that maybe I'm very uncomfortable with Jello wrestling, or whatever it could be. There's an aspect of it that I wouldn't want to do with my shows. Does that really get to the point where you will lose events with having kind of that kind of a guideline, or is it something that the promoters work around pretty well, or how does that go?
The question is that an event you want to be a part of? For example, if I love supporting fundraisers, but if I ask questions about the fundraisers and I don't get the impression that the money is going to where they say it is, then that's okay. You ask those questions so that you can figure out, do I really want to support this? Because the idea is great, but there's something sketchy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's a gig where they want you to play a specific type of music and that's not your demographic. Like, that's not something you're going to be really into. So establishing the demographic, the theme, what everybody is trying to accomplish from this is really important. And where you might miss out on gigs, I think that's okay, because for me, I've done gigs I wasn't really into and realized I would just rather not do that. So,
I think we've all been there, done that.
yeah.
You hate yourself like later. It's like, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah, and a learning experience.
Yeah,
so.
and I think you tied it into your that whole demographic thing of knowing yourself and knowing who you want to work with, and I think that leads us into your second point.
Yes. Oh, my second point.
You did such a nice bridge for yourself there. It's like, oh.
Know your demographic. Who are you catering to? What kind of crowd do you want to attract, from the age range to the music? Maybe you're doing this like super sophisticated night and you want like successful people, that have money to spend. Or maybe you're catering to a group that's looking for top 40 and hip hop and popular EDM hits.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they hang out? Universities, sports games, specific stores. We're on Facebook or online forums and social media. Some groups of people are on Twitter, others are on Reddit. And I mean, when you understand your demographic, you know how to please them or just interest them in your event. So an example I would give is like an art show versus a wedding. So at a wedding, you're trying to make sure the bride and groom is happy, they're getting what music they want, and you have an idea of that range of what people want to hear at the wedding, maybe country, rock, whatever. So understanding what that demographic wants. Whereas at an art show, you're setting an atmosphere, a little more sophisticated, different music, kind of quirky, but you're not going to be playing bangers. So when you understand your demographic, you're better able to both advertise to them and make them happy at your events.
I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to make a note here. When we're going to take a little commercial break here, Kilma. When we get back, talking about understanding our demographic and if we have a target demographic, and then how far out of that can we step. So we've got some sponsors tonight for our shows. Yay! This is our first sponsor, Electro Voice with the EKX speakers. We'll be right back. And of course, Electro Voice is one of our sponsors. They're actually sponsoring DJN TV throughout the summer of 2016. So if you guys are looking for speakers, definitely check out EV Electro Voice and the new EKX speakers, which I've got a set right over here, and they're pretty awesome, gang. You got to check those out. Kilma, before our break, we were talking demographic. I wanted to dig into, because I know a couple of our guys from the central part of the U.S., they're kind of into a country. They've kind of designed their demographic to be aimed towards a country crowd. But now they need to do weddings and such. They need to kind of expand. Now, is it something that they can stay with that kind of a demographic and expand out? Or do they really need to change their image to fit a different demographic that would be more wedding appealing? What do you think?
That's a good question because even though, like for myself, I play a lot of underground electronic music, I don't want to play top 40. However, there's music within my range that have those little remixes that work out quite well. I don't know how well that works with country, but if the people that are really around country are open to playing other types of music, that's one way to go about it. But yeah, you want to stay true to yourself. So where do the people that love country hang out? That would be my number one question. Whether it's clubs, radio shows, online, groups online that talk about country music, that have contests going on around that. If you are a country fan and that's what kind of music you want to play, then I would think about what companies are really around that those genres of music as well.
As an example, because like the NASCAR, we know NASCAR fits into that world, and different beer companies are more popular with that. Are those the types of companies you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know so much about country.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
no,
NASCAR, yeah. We do have race car drivers in our.
yeah, I figured the country part you wouldn't, because that doesn't something you would spin. But yeah, the whole concept of, stepping out of one's demographic, because I believe a couple of their websites and everything are just designed around that whole country feel. But
That's awesome.
it wouldn't matter if it's if they were into classic rock feel. If that's their demographic is the people who love classic rock. What's more effective would be to look outside of that, or would it be to really just focus? And I like your suggestion of really digging into what are these people, what do they listen to, what do they watch, where do they go to the bathroom, all these different little things.
Where can I put my advertising? Which bathrooms are they at? There you go.
Exactly. So really,
Texas
you're
Roadhouse.
just digging in. Yeah. One of them is a lot of it is farmers, and that's where they do business, and that's where you want to be and try to get in front of them. So cool. Okay, so we talked about our demographic. We talked let's see, we talked about getting involved in helping the planning, we kind of narrowed our demographic down. What's our next step?
Okay, so you got your demographic, you have a good idea about your theme, or sorry, your like you're getting involved with the planning.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can actually create that theme and brand image. Whether you're in charge or again, like a part of it. So what's the idea around the night? Is it a country music night? We've got super popular country music nights around here, and they're branded specifically for that. From the music to the decor and the atmosphere. So you walk in there and you're like walking into a barn. It's giving you that whole vibe. If it was a rave, you're going to have multiple local acts and headliners. So you're thinking about the crazy decor and lights and what DJs are going to work really well for your demographic. If it's younger and you need more high energy, or maybe you're throwing a lounge night and you've got a resident with some guests and you make this theme more dress to impress because that's going to attract people that want to dress up. You're not going to have to worry about having people showing up in jeans and their backpack.
Mm-hmm.
So creating that theme and brand image around that demographic. Your brand, of course, and what you want to do, but using knowing your demographic to know how to advertise to them through that branding. And I feel like I'm jumping into the next one
You're
already.
you're you're sliding, but it's kind of a continuation.
Yeah.
But let's. You talked about the theme of the event. How far? And I'm probably thinking specifically like when it comes to attire and your personal performance. How much do you change any of that when you're getting ready for a themed event? I mean, does a person dress up, or do you really stick with your brand? Say if you had your look, which one would take precedent?
Hmm. Um, if you're, see, that's such a great question because, a brand has an image, and some brands have, hi, some brands have, it's my husband. Some brands have images where they are kind of a chameleon, and they do dress up differently depending on the event, but it's still a part of them because they've got a bit of a range within the music that they play and the services that they offer.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love to dress up. I love dressing up for fashion events because I can do some pretty quirky, crazy things, and no one's the wiser. um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the part is 'cause there's a few DJs that I know that have a style, and as an example, typically when we're at a wedding, most DJs are wearing shirt, tie, or tuxedo, and this particular performer, and many of you know him out there, he doesn't wear that. He's wearing some really expensive tennis shoes. He's wearing a designer shirt and nice. He looks very good, but he's not dressed up in the formal sense that way. If he's wearing a sport coat or something, to kind of dress it up that way, but it's not at the level. Because in his case, his brand supersedes the quote theme in the case, most of the case, wedding. And that's just it's a balancing act, and I wonder where that line is of when your personal brand exceeds the theme of the event.
Yeah, in that case, I would definitely be talking to the bride and groom. In situations like that, specifically when there tends to be a more um, no, not to dress up. So if the bride and groom are good with it, then great. But yeah, I guess if they're specific in their branding,
Yeah, and
that can work.
it reminded me of another DJ that we have. A lot of you have probably seen him. His name is Chopper. Chopper's shtick is this kind of a 50s, the car front, and Chopper wears polka dot pajamas to most of his events.
That's
That's his shtick, and he's just this. And I've seen him with pictures with bride couples, some of his promo pictures, and he's wearing the polka dot pajamas. Now, in his case, yes, that's his brand, but I've also seen pictures of him wearing a very nice tux and such. So he goes both ways, but that's an interesting thing. I know I don't worry about it because I try to follow the event as much as possible, and I'm not the guy who wants to stand out. So good stuff, good stuff. So we were continuing on. Before I interrupted you, you were going to be continuing on to the next tip here.
I was going to make a little side tip about demographic and theme. Less really is more. Like trying to cater to everyone, like 0 to 78, just it's not very easy. It's like trying to cater to a crowd that has very little money and people that have a lot of money and trying to bring them all in one space. It's a lot more difficult. So when you get specific about your demographic, you can actually bring in quite a few more people uh, and then again still stay true to your brand without having to have such a wide range that you're playing music for toddlers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. And I think that's great advice. We've talked about that on other shows. The idea that you don't go and you can't buy a Yugo and Mercedes Benz on the same lot. It just doesn't happen that way too often. Not too often, no. And that's great because yeah, I think as DJs we like want to. Oh, I want to Oh, if they've got the $5 for the cover charge, I want them in here no matter what. And sometimes
and then they
they,
don't spend money.
they don't.
And
They
that
come in
could have
there.
been a, yeah, could have been a paying patron.
Okay, we got a couple more tips. We're going to take a break because we've got another sponsor spot here. We'll be back in just a few seconds. So our second sponsor for summer of 2016 is ColorKeyLED.com. You can go check out their lighting and such out at ColorKeyLED.com. Kilma, we're up to number 4 in our, actually 4.5, maybe 5, depending upon how you numbered things. We are up to the marketing side of it. We know our crowd. We're starting to build a theme around that crowd to target them, get them in there. Now we need to let people know.
Yeah, how are you reaching out to those clients? You got to create your marketing plan, from your flyer to your online ads, like reaching out to those people. You could be looking at attractive or funny videos, contests, ways to get people involved. So, for example, if you have a younger crowd, they might be into advertising that they find really hilarious or incredibly high energy, while a more subtle but sophisticated advertising technique might be better suited for a more mature crowd. So, like I mentioned before, the dress to impress. You might not want as many loud, bright colors on a flyer for somebody like that. Whereas a rave, you can go a little bit more crazy and get that sort of demographic attracted. So that was, yeah, marketing plan.
So when you're creating your information, and this might even go back to your marketing kit and such, are there certain colors that you use in your marketing kit that you say consistent to a certain type or group of colors and a certain group of fonts and a certain look with everything you do?
If you go to the don'tkillavibe.com website, I do use a lot of the same fonts and colors. Try to keep that consistent on all of my social medias. However, because that side of my brand is a little more playful, when I am doing a party, I and my demographic is quite mature, I try to keep it very simple but sophisticated. And yeah, so consistent in the sense of my branding for Kilma and consistent for like my events. So my events will have a different look from that brand. Everything's professional. It's just different depending on who I'm trying to reach out to.
Right, because you've got 2 different audiences that you're working with there.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
cool. Okay, let's continue on.
Yeah, number 5 is evaluate. You want to follow up, talk with your audience, even outside the club is quite fantastic. Find out what's working, what's not, from the atmosphere to even the staff or the drinks and food. It could be something as simple as bringing in an additional speaker to a section of the club that is missing sound that you didn't realize because maybe the sound guy or because you're behind the booth and you missed something. So, talking with people and getting their feedback is really important. It gets them to be a part of the process and they felt listened to. I wanted to give an example actually of one patron that told me that the reason he loved the venue that I was using is because the old venue didn't see the value in investing in something as simple as limes, like they're little on the side of the drink. That was his whole spunk to his drink. So he said he'd easily spend like $80 in their establishment if they just spent 59 cents on a lime for him when he came out. And it's just sometimes those little things that get people kind of riled up about not wanting to go somewhere. So yeah, definitely getting feedback and following through with that.
So we're getting feedback. We talk to the people now. Is there a rule of thumb you use to differentiate between feedback that's actually going to be usable for your business and some of it that's basically hot air that they're like telling you you're like God come down and play it on the turntables, and you had a bad night. Is there how do you handle and be able to keep these things in perspective to know when you're getting solid feedback?
Yeah, that's a really good question because sometimes people can get so hyped up on the compliments that they don't listen to the complaints because they're like, what are you talking about? Everybody else is having a great time, or at least
Mm-hmm.
this guy. Um, I think you kind of have to find that middle ground. Some people are just going to be unhappy and everything's going to tick them off, and some people are just going to blow hot air up your butt. So I kind of
I
try to
didn't want to say
find,
it that way, but
yeah,
sure.
yeah. You just want to find that middle ground. And I think that when you're doing a lot of research on this stuff, uh, you 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 start to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you got to be a humble person because if someone is telling you that you're freaking God on the turntables and you're just like, okay, I don't have to try anymore, uh,
Yeah.
that's not a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's one of those things that someone gave the advice. You're never as good as your biggest fan says you are, and you're never quite as bad as your biggest hater says you are, and it's somewhere in there. So
Yeah, I like that.
cool, cool. Okay, gang, we've got a couple of performance tips that Kim will put together for us tonight. So we're going to run our last spot, and we'll be back in just a few seconds here with our final lightning round of performance tips. Here we go.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Ladies and gentlemen, our sponsors tonight, you've seen their ads. Last one is DJ Event Planner. Please go out and show them some love because they are going to be sponsoring our DJ and TV shows throughout the summer of 2016. So yay!
Yay!
Kilma, we've talked about getting us there, getting us ready for success, but now let's talk about some performance tips. And it's really kind of cool. And gang, what I like to do is I like to get the notes that we're going to be talking about from our different presenters. So Kilma sent her notes over. And what you're talking about is actually something that I had a talk with a DJ, and I could have just about taken this is what I was telling her. So gang, she's got some really good information here. So let's jump right into it.
So respect the dance floor. You want to create a flow to the evening. The progress of music throughout the night is important, whether it's hyping up a crowd for that prime or right up into that prime time slot or creating an appropriate ambient atmosphere, like at a or at a like art show. So one thing I say, and I had to learn this mistake. I was young, I was excited. Don't play bangers in a lounge where the setting is supposed to be sophisticated.
Okay, give me a definition of bangers, please, because not everyone
Okay,
knows what that is.
yeah, okay. Think of like that track at midnight that plays that's just going off and it's going crazy. And there you are playing it at like 9:30 and there's like a few like couples having a nice romantic dinner and this is just like
And you're going,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Maybe not
pretty
so
much
good.
anything big room. I'll do it. And I mean, you're in a lounge, right? So why are you playing big room music?
I think we should actually get into that in a future show. Is talking about the
Yes.
difference between like the big show you're talking about and a lounge. And MJ's talked about this too, so we could even bring him in so he can
Yes,
give
I
us
love
the
MJ.
the crotchety old man version of it.
I like him. He's awesome.
Yeah. He's so okay.
Okay, so I was going to say have range in your music to ensure your crowd wants what you're giving. So that doesn't necessarily mean playing things that you don't like, but if I'm playing a lounge atmosphere, then eventually I'm going to bring the energy up. So it's good for me to have a nice range of music, just in case it starts going in one direction. Um, and like even like for me, even though I stay quite true to my sound, I like to have those few little backup remixes that are still within my range of music,
Mhm.
but they kind of calm people that are like, I really want hip hop. And then they hear a little bit of Missy Elliott lyrics and they're like, okay, I can get into this. So you can kind of um, educate them if you're going in a different direction musically. And um, this is a big one. You can't please everyone, but ensure you're not creating brand confusion trying to please others as an artist. So, one example of this, have you heard of the Trailer Park Boys?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, Mr. Leahy and Randy did their cheeseburger tour all across North America, and I randomly got asked to open for them at the Red River Community College.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking, this is a college they're going to want top 40. So I was very firm. I don't play top 40. This is what I play. The guy's like, I know, I love your music. It's great. We're going to try it. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, it's no big deal. So I had, those backup tracks, but I wanted to stay true to my brand. And that can be really hard when you're thinking about 500 people being like, play some hip hop.
Yeah, exactly.
So it worked out perfectly. They loved the music. I only got one request to play hip hop, and they survived, and they'll have me back again, I'm sure.
Cool.
But you want to stay true to your brand. So sometimes that means like really reminding the promoter, look, this is what you get, and it's going to be great, but you need to know that I don't have backup files.
Exactly. This is what we're gonna do. Oh, funny.
And then I just have my last one. Should I jump into it?
Let's jump right into it then.
Respect the microphone. You gotta find balance. If you want to be center of attention, don't become an MC. Become the rapper in the track. I used to be a drum and bass DJ, and we had our little jungle MCs. Some of them were fantastic. Most of them will not shut up. So they're bibbity boppity boop. You can't hear what they're saying, or they're singing over the lyrics, or they're screaming into the microphone. And even in other industries, I will see artists singing along to every single track. It's obnoxious. So when you've had a few drinks, you feel like a rock star. We all make those mistakes, but it's important to learn how to speak. From volume control to talking from your diaphragm, making announcements, introductions. Sometimes if you're at a club, you need to announce drink specials. There's a space and a time between certain tracks that allow for that. So just try to find a balance and respect the microphone.
I think that's a great tip and a great way to wrap up our little run through tonight. Kilma, if people want to find out more information or go and check your stuff, your different sites out, where's the best sites for them to go to?
Yeah, if they go to don'tkilmavibe.com, that's Kilma, they can find all my social media on there. Facebook, I'm Kilma. I'm sure we'll have some links for you guys to check out, or at Kilma Music. Yeah, Kilma Music's on my social media.
That sounds great. Yeah, we'll have the links in the description. I don't know if I have them there. I thought I had a couple in there, but I'll make sure we've got those in there. Kilma, thank you very much. And guys, if you have any questions or anything, put those down in the comments after the video is done. Not in the right side, because the right side's going to go away, unfortunately. But in the YouTube player, put those down below, and we will do our best to answer those. For those of you who are watching and you want to catch Arnaldo's show, the link is in the description below. We're going to be back in about 5 minutes. We shut everything off, and we're going to start new video players with Arnaldo's show, and we'll be back in 5 with Arnaldo. Kilma, thank you much for being with me tonight.
Thanks for having me. I had fun.